The Telltale Heart, likely set in the mid-19th century, opens with an unnamed narrator insisting on his sanity, though he immediately admits to committing a murder. He claims that his heightened senses, particularly his acute hearing, are evidence of his rationality rather than madness. The tone is defensive and obsessive, revealing a disturbed mind from the very first line. True, as nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am, but why will you say that I am mad? The narrator lives with an old man, whom he insists he loves and bears no personal hatred toward. However, he becomes fixated on one of the old man's eyes, a vulture eye, pale blue with a film over it, that fills him with irrational dread and disgust. Convinced that the eye is evil or cursed, he resolves to kill the old man to rid himself of it forever. His obsession is both absurd and terrifying, illustrating Poe's theme of psychological madness masked as logic. For 7 nights, the narrator creeps into the old man's room at midnight, holding a lantern so that only a single thin ray of light falls on the sleeping man's eye. Each night the eye is closed, so he cannot bring himself to kill. The crime must be committed when the evil eye looks upon him. The narrator delights in his stealth, mistaking his meticulous patience for genius rather than mania. On the 8th night, the old man awakens and sits up in fear, sensing an intruder. The narrator opens the lantern's shutter just enough for the light to fall on the dreaded eye. Overcome with fury, he attacks, smothering the old man beneath his bed and then dismembering the body. He hides the remains under the floorboards, confident that his perfect crime will go undiscovered. A neighbor has reported hearing a scream, and the police arrive to investigate. Calm and self-assured, the narrator welcomes them in, even placing a chair directly over the spot where he has concealed the body. The officers remain friendly, unaware of any wrongdoing. As the narrator chats casually, he begins to hear a low rhythmic thumping, the sound of a heart beating beneath the floorboards. The sound grows louder and louder, pounding in his ears. Convinced the police hear it too and are mocking him, his composure unravels. In a frantic burst of guilt and terror, he confesses the crime, crying, "Villains, dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks." The story ends with the narrator's breakdown, exposing his insanity. The beating heart symbolizes both guilt and conscience, an auditory hallucination born from psychological torment. Poe leaves the reader in ambiguity, whether the sound was real or imagined, illustrating how madness consumes the human mind from within.